John Penrose. Good afternoon to you, John. It's interesting, isn't it? I was saying this last night. The government are in a bit of a bind in all of this, in the sense that people are crying out for help. But in many regards, the help the government can provide, which is more money, might make inflation even worse. Do you think the government should maybe be honest with the public and say, frankly, we cannot just loosen monetary policy even more because it risks making the situation substantially worse?
Well, I think the Prime Minister was gesturing in that direction, didn't quite put it in those terms, but saying we can't, the state, the government, no government can completely insulate everybody from an international problem like the spiralling international cost of gas. But you're right that one of the things we have got to do is to try and fix the underlying problem. The problem with using taxpayers' money to try and tide ourselves through is actually what we're doing is we're just taking money from one pocket and putting it in another. We're raising taxes in order to help people out in the short term. It doesn't actually fix the underlying problems, which are things like we are over-dependent on Russian gas. And even when we're not using Russian gas, we're still using fuels which are priced off the high price that's caused by shortages in Russian gas. So we've got to wean ourselves off that and fix the underlying problems, not just treat the symptoms and we've got to deal with the causes instead.
Indeed, but one of those things is our pretty bad economic growth. And I say bad as in it's been bad really for the last decade or so. What is wrong with the UK economy? What is wrong? Maybe it comes down to the fact that the Conservatives have been in power for the last 12 years. I don't know. But, I mean, it's pretty dreadful, our productivity on our economic growth. Why?
Yeah. The reason I'm laughing is not because it's funny, but because you are right. It's a very long-term problem. It actually predates any Conservative government. It's been going on for decades, and it's a sort of hardy perennial of all the economic conferences. They always debate the UK's productivity problem. Actually, my personal view is that we need another dose of sort of Maggie Thatcher's supply-side reforms, some efficiencies and making the UK's economy more efficient, more productive so that we can grow faster. And all the tax and spend policies in the world don't fix the underlying engine. You've actually got to take the engine apart, put it back together again and just make it work faster so it can rev better and work more smoothly. And that's all sorts of things to do with the competitiveness of our economy, our competition laws. There's a couple of competition bills, for example, in the Queen's speech, the way our energy markets work. So that why is it, for example, that everyone's telling us that the cost of all these renewable sources of energy, offshore wind, that they're all falling, and yet none of that is feeding through into your and my energy bills. How can that be? How can that be true? Right.
There's many things, John, you could...
There's all sorts of fundamental changes which we need to do rather than just looking to the Treasury.
I mean, there's many things that Boris Johnson could be praised or dismissed for. I mean, he's not Margaret Thatcher, though, is he? I mean, if anything, he's a big state Conservative. He loves raising taxes and spending money, it seems.
Well, and so what I'm arguing is that there's a whole series of things, and actually there are bits in the Queen's speech which are starting to move us in the right direction, where we need to just to rediscover a bit of that Maggie Thatcher mojo, if I can put it that way. And so, for example, there's a competition bill that's supposed to be it is in the Queen's speech. That's going to be really vital, because if we sharpen competition, that makes British firms more competitive, it makes them better at exporting, all those things. That's what we've got to get back to, alongside the other bits and pieces in the rest of the programme about levelling up. So it's not a question of do one or the other. We've got to do both.
And just very finally, John, while I've got you, just in the last hour or so has been reported by Politics Home that Mark Spencer, the leader of the House of Commons, has said that there's been unsavoury individuals who've been able to become MPs in the rush announcements of the 2017-2019 election, and the public can expect better candidates at the next election. Is that what you found with your colleagues in the 2017 and 19 intake, that they're just not as good as MPs from earlier elections?
Actually, no, I haven't found that. I don't know if Mark was referring to Conservative MPs or other parties' MPs, but I haven't found that, no. In fact, I've been really impressed by the breadth and depth of talent we've got. We've got a much broader range of people, certainly in the Conservative Parliamentary Party, and they come from a whole variety of backgrounds, and they've got all sorts of skills which I think would have been much, much rarer in previous generations if you go back to 30, 40 years before you and I were ever here.
OK,